want to talk first of all nationally and how and why the NAACP was formed, the reason for that, and we'll touch on Youngstown as well moving forward. We're celebrating 100 years here in Youngstown, but of course nationally we're celebrating 110th year of existence as well. So well over 110 years. The NAACP, I tell a lot of people, is still relevant. 110 years later, we're still fighting a lot of the same old stuff we were fighting over a century ago. On the scales, if you will, of justice and equality are not level. That's what, if you look at the brochure here, the symbol, I'll talk about the symbol of the NAACP. The scales represent litigation and the law and equality for everybody, for all citizens, black, white, blue, and brown. That covers everybody. And the book there is the further education. As a people, for people, we need to continue to learn and educate ourselves, because the more education that we have, the further we'll go in life, we truly will. So that's what the NAACP in part is about. The NAACP was formed because of race riots that occurred in Springfield, Illinois. And for some people, know that was the birthplace of Abraham Lincoln. That was his hometown. Well, what a tragedy. Race riots weren't just going on in Springfield, but the one in Springfield lasted over 2 days long. It happened in the summer of 1908. Now I have to say a forerunner to the NAACP was the Niagara movement. The Niagara movement consisted of all black folk, it really did. Some of the principles that were taken from the Niagara movement was used for the NAACP as well. The NAACP realized that it needed to have some black faces as a part of that overall group. So an invitation was given to W.E.B. Du Bois and some of his colleagues from the Niagara movement. They came and fused and joined with NAACP and started that movement, if you will. In a small apartment in New York City, 3 people that don't look like us, 3 Jewish people came together, and they needed to have a biracial organization that would represent not only black folk, but everybody. Originally, the NAACP was called the National Negro Committee, but a year later, W.E.B. Du Bois saw that that name was really not covering everybody, and colored people goes a little bit further than just saying Negro people. So he made the suggestion that the name be changed. So going into their second conference, which was the following year, they changed the name. The NAACP, like I said, in 1909 was organized. It was organized on February 12, 1909. They organized it on February 12th of 1909 to pay tribute to Abraham Lincoln, who they feel freed the slaves. The Emancipation Proclamation, he was the President of the United States, so why not give him credit? But there was a lot of things that went on to bring the Emancipation Proclamation to actually happen. It wasn't just him, but he was the figurehead, of course. So on the centennial birth of Abraham Lincoln, which was in 1909, it would have been his 100th birthday, the NAACP was formed. The mission of NAACP is to fight against all forms of discrimination. That's all forms of discrimination, be it economic, be it educational, be it housing, or be it anything you can think about. Where those scales, as I mentioned earlier, are not balanced, they're not level, there's not being a level playing field for all citizens, then the organization steps in. The organization steps in upon request. We don't bully our way into people's lives. People come to us and ask us for help and points out the discrimination case, if there said would be one. And then we, of course, investigate. We have to vet things. And then from there, there are legal redresses that occur in the remedy of situations. Because we are an organization of well over 110 years old, everybody worldwide knows who we are. We're actually a leader in that respect. We're the oldest biracial discrimination organization in the world. Wow. And other countries look at what we're doing. Don't think they don't. They've always have. But the mission continues. The NAACP, moving into the 21st century, we know a lot of the old stuff was fighting racial discrimination, job discrimination, educational discrimination. We know those still. But moving into the 21st century, the NAACP also has a mission where it applies to police misconduct. We know what that is. And also it talks about the status of black political refugees in the United States and things that are going on with them as well. refugees or immigrants, if you will, that come to this country. There's some immigrants, believe it or not, that are treated better than others. Try coming from Nepal or any country in Africa, or any small country in Africa, you're probably going to be treated a little bit different than coming from the European countries and stuff like that. We know that goes on. So the mission continues to fight for that as well. That's the current thing that's going on right now. In questions of economic development. Economic development could be as simple as trying to go get a business loan and you're turned down. The next man that goes in that same office to request a business loan, who may happen to be of a different color, is given the loan. And then you, of course, ask yourself the question, why didn't I get the loan? So that's what it means about economic development, if you will. The NAACP continues to champion the cause of a lot of things. You know, we talk about litigation and we talk about agitation. Litigation, of course, is legal action. It's going to the courtroom, using the law books in our favor to balance the scales of justice in that respect. But agitation is simply protest. It's simply carrying a sign with your message stated on that sign, and it's a non-direct, if you will, method of getting a message across. Where there are people gathered in numbers, there is strength. You have one person stand on the street corner yelling, "I was treated unfairly, I was discriminated against," a lot of people may not listen to that man. But if you get 200 or 300 people behind that man saying the same thing, then it gets attention. And that's what the NAACP continues to strive forward for. We're not an organization of just parties or get-togethers or mixers and all that kind of stuff. No, we have these things called the Freedom Fund Banquet to raise funds so we can run our office administratively. We need money to run the organization. We're a nonprofit, and that's where money's come from. Also, we know that we have things to go out to our students, as well as them getting help and going to college scholarships and things along that line on this level, and then maybe even later on, you know, but to assist them in that area as well. It seems like it's always just for young people, but it's not always just for young people. Youngstown may concentrate on getting scholarships and things like that, but there are other ways to aid people and try to get educational advancement as well. It's not just always young folk. The NAACP represents everybody. So everybody in this room should feel that, oh my God, we got an organization that continues to fight the fight. They've been doing it well over 110 years. It's nice to know. But to move the ball down the court, if you will, to move the action forward, the volunteerism is what I'm saying, what makes the organization run. We need volunteers. Without that action, that purposeful action of moving the ball further down the court, championing the causes of what ails us all, if you will. A lot of times people on the outside of the organization looking in don't really know what we do. You know, I think in maybe some ways along the way, the message may have gotten lost a little bit, I don't know. Back in the old days, the churches were all involved, all in, 100%. Every church on every corner in every city, every community was all in. And it wasn't too uncommon to find some cities, chapters that you had 100% membership. It was bursting at the seams. Everybody wanted to be a part of the NAACP. Now, can we be back that way again? Yes, we can. But it takes word of mouth. In this social media market that we live in now, where you can just get on the computer and instantly put stuff out, should be a little bit more easier to do it than the olden days, if you will, where you had to do a lot of foot stomping, knocking on doors, and all that kind of stuff. Social media is a very, very important tool that we all can use. But when there's events to go out and tell people all the time, especially if I send something, share it with somebody. And that's how social media works. You have to share the information with somebody else and then share it with someone else, and then move the ball further down the court in that respect. The NAACP's mission, I hope one day it'll cease to be needed, that we won't need the NAACP anymore. But after 110 years, I think it's safe to say, in a sad way to say, that the mission continues. We have to continue to move the ball. We have to continue to stand up and be activists, if you will, not only in our own communities, but go to the aid of other people who may be just in Warren or just down the road in Akron. We're all of us, a band of brothers all across the United States. I have to pay respect to my wife is here. Her uncle, along with 3 other men, started the Detroit chapter of the NAACP in the basement of a church called St. Matthew's Church in downtown Detroit. These four men got together. Her uncle was Benjamin Lambert. We don't know him, but his picture is on this timeline board I've created over here, top left. Benjamin, if I give him credit, because we know the family history, he was kind of like an artist, and he liked doing art and stuff like that. His father used to always say, Benjamin, get a real job. Benjamin would do art and stuff like that. He was well connected with a lot of different writers and things like that. He's a very artsy person. I think I painted the picture. But I really think the number one contribution that Benjamin made was to start that branch. And to this day, the Detroit chapter of the NAACP is the biggest one in the United States. Wow. It is the biggest one. Wow. So with that said, a legacy goes beyond just her family. That was an active participant in his branch until he died. But for us, locally, the NAACP, as it relates to Youngstown, Ohio, needs volunteers for it to go forward as well, much like Benjamin was a volunteer and a founding member. On the timeline, please feel free to come over. I've gotten different time photographs here, things like that, and things I've gotten from other parts and other chapters across the United States. Because the reason why I created the board, I wanted people to realize that it's not just about the Youngstown branch, but it's about the whole United States in which we're members of this country going forward. So we all have to work together. It's not about those guys and those guys over there, but it's about us.
Yes.
The mission is about us. The mission of the NAACP must go forward. Who are we? We're the NAACP. And if you need help, reach out. Thank you very much.
Excellent job, Mr. Napier. I know that I